Good to see you, Jade.
Good to see
It's been
you.
a minute, not for us, like in iMessenger and whatever, but it's been a minute since we recorded one of these. Crazy travel schedule, Canadian spring break, different from American spring break. I feel like we have like physically been all over North America. Does that sound right to you?
That's accurate.
And I was in Georgia on automation industry business last weekend, but you weren't there.
It was like an hour from my house, and I was in a different state,
Just
and we
keep
just keep
missing. We
we
should
keep
meet at an
missing each
airport
other, and I
lounge.
don't
Just
like it.
slow down for a minute and cross in the arrivals terminal. We have done
We've
that.
done
That's
that
true.
before.
We have done that.
What happened here?
From now on, Monkeypod happy hours and meetups, airports. It's been, as far as last week in automation, I feel like it was just a busy week for news. Every time I opened my email, there was another new feature or this new event and all of these types of things. And I wondered if it was BS or overkill. And each time I click or open, it's going to some press release or invitation that seems pretty real. So, as far as busy weeks in automation industry news, I feel like we just had it.
The busy season of automation. Like, yeah. Maybe like spring is a chill time, and when the developers are like have been working furiously through the end of Q4 and all of Q1, and
That's
then
right.
Q2 they're like,
The software companies roll the
I don't know.
boulder off of the cave. They're like, you weren't allowed out since December.
And if you're a developer,
Help.
comment below. Help!
Pin,
Help!
drop a
Over
pin.
here!
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's actually go through some of these. And I think that they range, the ones that I'm watching right now, and I swear there are more. There's probably content for weeks around the stuff that has come out in the last week. But the ones that I'm keeping my eye on right now range from fairly unserious to more serious or revolutionary. There's really quite a gamut of them. And the first one I want to bring up is a color change. For all of those of us who are longtime users of Keap, or Keap is now part of Thryv. Keap has a very distinctive green color. I don't know if you've noticed, most software companies seem to lean towards blue. Like you don't see a lot of like red and green and orange software companies, but Keap has been green for years. And Thryv is like a very bold orange company. You watching my dog?
She looked
Is
great
she
in the
stealing
background. She was
stuff?
so cute. And like, if only the Thrive Orange and the Keep Green were like complementary colors, but unfortunately, like you could not pick two colors that would
That's
be
right.
more hideous together. So there's been this like long-term plan to like merge branding and merge logos and merge softwares. I'm sure you'll get to it. But yes, colors would be on the this end of the unserious spectrum
Yeah,
as we
and I
move.
haven't seen much drama yet, but I am curious to go and jump in to see if people are about it not at all, or don't move my cheese kind of extreme, or like somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. It's more just
Why
like,
is
why
my
is
cheese
my
not colored
cheese
now?
that
I had
color?
green worse than
Just
orange if it's cheese.
talk about us matching in our blue. You're like, why isn't anybody more blue?
It sure
Blue's a
is.
great color for CRMs.
What's going
Orange,
on?
green,
So yeah,
what's
if you
going
log into
on?
your Keep app in the last couple of days, classic, not orange, but Max Pro, Ultimate, all of that stuff, Keep logo has turned orange, and I don't hate it. Looks fine, looks good. And then
Color.
another change at Keep that I'm following this week that is bigger and probably has annoyed more people than the color change ever could, but I'm actually really on board with this one, was the login change. So the old Keep login mechanism is gone now. I don't think, maybe somebody knows how to trick it back, but I haven't been able to find that older Keep login page.
It doesn't work. I've been tricking it because I'm
I
in
want to
that
do it
camp that's
my
like, I
way.
want to do it my way, the old way. And now I have to do it the combined way. But like, I agree, just so for the record, audience, Cam is right. It's for the
And
best.
here's the thing. I want to talk
It doesn't
about
need.
human behavior and procrastination a little bit. I've been following and been fine with this decision to unify logins for a while, but I also didn't take any action in advance. I procrastinated just as much until I got presented with they've taken away my ability to choose the new one. Now I have
Yes,
to.
I have
And
to.
it threw me for a loop for a second because I did get access to some Thrive tools early on, like a sandbox of Marketing Center and Business Center and those types of things. And I remember that the most startling thing in my brain was like, ooh, but I have a login to this page. So in my password vault, I was like, oh, I have one that goes onto like the Infusionsoft domain, and I have one that goes onto this Thryv single sign-on domain. They both use the same email address. Did I screw up by? And I got to tell you, it was fine. I tried my Thryv login first, try to get into a Keap resource. So I was at like keap.app or appid.infusionsoft.com. I was at one of those addresses, got presented with the new Thryv interface, put in, I was like, no, which one? I didn't pay attention to which one to use. I tried my Thryv one, didn't work. Oh no, this is going to be awful. Then I tried my Keap one and it let me through. And then
you sound like a real optimist.
And then it
right
gave
now.
me the 2FA challenge. Oh no, is it going to be my Thryv registered phone number, my Keap registered phone number, my authenticator app? What's it going to be? And it was the Keap one. So I had this like pessimistic. I had this pessimistic moment of, oh, I should have solved for this problem earlier because now I have two different passwords using the same username. Oh no! And honestly, it was on my task list today. It said restore Keap access, solve Keap access, and it really wasn't that hard. So I geared up for a whole morning of it. It really wasn't that bad at all. The news this week is really around the core CRM systems as well, rather than the broader ecosystem. So the last thing I'll say about Keap, for those who are interested, I got to spend some time with a couple of Keap staffers and a lot of Keap and just industry partners last week. That's why I was an hour away from your house in Georgia, was to hang out with some of the key kind of implementation integration partners out there. And we got to hang out and just talk about news and industry in general. But the Keap perspective I heard, or I should say the Thryv perspective I heard, was that a lot of people, if they're choosing to make the bridge, which you don't have to, Keap is still working as Keap always did, right, as a marketing automation platform. But for the people who are embracing the idea of also trying a Thryv product, Thryv has five different centers that they sell and license separately. And there were some people there who had really started to enjoy what they call Marketing Center. It's not that they didn't like the other ones. They were like, I haven't figured out how to use this, or if there's a place in my business for that related to the other centers. But there was this pretty strong sentiment that like, oh, if somebody wants to try to make the leap, Marketing Center is a really good place to make the leap. And it's things like social media scheduling and monitoring, competitor monitoring, so you can tell it who your competitor is, and it'll give you insights about the search and performance of that competitor. Things like Google My Business listings and soliciting reviews and all of those types of things. That's one of the things I'm going to challenge myself to do in the next couple of days, is because I heard of people genuinely feeling like that was a good kind of like first transition. I'm going to give that one a go and try out Marketing Center.
Okay, so more on that later, because not later today, later in a future recording, because I'm also dying to know. And I think you can tell from the way Cam and I have been talking, especially today, is that like when there's a new iPhone, I don't buy it. I wait for other people to hate it or love it, and then I buy it. But I think I even hold out a little bit longer than Cam does. And like, maybe it's my flavor of ADHD versus your flavor of ADHD, but if something is cool or popular, I immediately hate it.
Dude, the next time I go, I'll ask them, which one have you not wanted to try yet? And we'll give that one to you.
Yes. You're like, anybody.
Let's shift gears. Let's lots of Thryv Keap news. Just lots changing in that world. Little things, big things, fine things, but little changes in that world. Let's just move on to the big other CRM in the space right now, which is HighLevel. HighLevel has a ton of news going on right now as well. And I'm not sure that they use the phrase alpha, beta, labs, production. I'm not sure that they use those consistently across all of the different product managers and departments, but I'll just use those terms interchangeably and pick out like one thing from a couple of those different levels. The first is that I've been in this, I think it's an alpha. I think you had to have been invited, like you couldn't even find it in labs, customizable contact records. And this is something that across every CRM I've ever helped somebody set up, I have really loved the idea of, where you can take entire sections, right? If you don't use this tool for commerce, why can't we get rid of that whole area, right? if you've got somebody who is responsible for dialing the phone and adding the notes, why not be able to build a contact record of you that is like laser focused in on that thing? Some CRM tools, looking for the dog to see she's stealing. She's being good. Some CRM tools are really good at that and some aren't, but I'm just such a big fan of what I often refer to as addition through subtraction. If you want to get somebody to use something more, give them less of the stuff they don't want to use.
Which, like, by the way, is really difficult to accomplish when, like, the same people who are like, I want it to look like this without all this extra stuff are the same people, and this is not a bad thing, are the same people who are like, I need this feature, I need this feature, I need this feature, I need this feature. And if you don't have all 8,000 things
Right.
and the kitchen sink, I'm out of
Yeah,
here.
there are a handful of power users around the world right now who are getting to truly touch and manipulate this idea of a custom contact record view, which I think is very cool. I don't know if everyone can get into that one, but if you have strong opinions about what custom contact views should be able to do in HighLevel, let me know so that I can sound smart when I give my feedback to.
Yeah. Comment below to make us look good. That is the forever
right.
call to action
Absolutely.
in these videos.
So that's something that I think is still very alpha. Like some people have it, some people don't, but I think will be very big and very exciting when it happens. And then let's go like one level down to the beta. This actually came up in the Grove this week in our private community, somebody deploying the new preference center. In email marketing, preference centers are common, they're important, but in most CRMs, I would say with the exception of like ActiveCampaign does a pretty decent job at it. Most of them, you have to build your preference center in a pretty customized method. And HighLevel has one in beta or what you might consider labs right now. And so I know that we had at least one member turn it on in recent days. And frankly, is finding stuff they like and stuff that they don't like. And not to spoil all the stuff that happens in the private community, but the end of it, even though we had a good conversation, the end of it was still they need to figure this part out before it's useful for that particular user. But yeah, there's something in beta right now. It seems like people are starting to embrace this idea of a preference center. And my hope is that when I just said about ActiveCampaign being the one that does a good job at it, maybe HighLevel is going to be the next one to do a good job at it soon. And I think that this subject is it's a good moment to remind people that virtually everyone, depending maybe if you bought your copy of HighLevel from a very restrictive agency, you might not have this, but the vast majority of us have a section in settings called Labs where you can toggle stuff on early. So if you're like, what Jade said about the iPhone, don't disrupt me, don't give me something that's not fully baked. You can push off or literally never go to labs and toggle things on, and you get the feature when it truly goes to public release. But if you're an enthusiast, if you're like, yeah, I want to kick the tires of newish things and maybe put up with a little tiny bit of uncertainty if it's not quite perfect, you can go to labs and take that stuff that's like beyond alpha but not yet production or like mass release, and you can toggle those things on and experience them. And I think that's where people who are getting this new preference center are, that's the space they're living in right now. It's ready for most, but if you don't like being an early adopter, you don't have to turn it on yet. It seems like some people are turning it on. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I like to hear about it and I like to get excited, and I'm more of like a cheering from the front row kind of a gal than being on stage. Which is
maybe I should do a blog post about this at some point, but that is one kind of cool thing about sandboxes. So if you're a Keap partner, I know not everyone who watches these is a Keap partner, some are regular Keap users and customers, but if you're a Keap partner, you have an RPM, a regional partner manager, or a PSM, a partner success manager, you can actually ask for free applications of Keap called sandboxes. You can't mass mail from them. You can't use them for production purposes. But if you've ever watched like a Monkeypod training, you'll see Keap accounts with like lots of fake data in them. Some of them have 5 contact records. Some of them have 1,000 fake contact records. But those are sandboxes, right? Because the idea is that you can try before you do it in a client app or production app. And the equivalent of that in HighLevel is that their $99 plan gives you 3 sub accounts. So you can run 3 businesses on it. And the more expensive ones, like the 297 and the 497, they actually give you unlimited sub accounts. So if you looked in mine, you would see that I just set up, I think I have 5 or 6 fake businesses in there. There's the Monkeypod training environment, there's the test and learn environment. I've got one that I just toggle labs on all the time because I'm like, if it breaks, if I don't like it, I don't like it. But if I want to see what happens when I toggle this on, I can do it in that environment. And I think often people don't think of their unlimited sub accounts as sandboxes, but there's no reason they can't be. You can spin one up to be the kind of person who is enthusiastic about upcoming things without having to actually impact your day to day. The last one of these, there's just so many of them. One that I did not expect from HighLevel, like I didn't even know they wanted to do this, is a white label desktop app. So a number of months ago, HighLevel put their CRM, their full interface, into a Windows and Mac OS application that can actually sit in your taskbar or in your dock. And I remember wondering, is that what people want? Or do people just want to live in Chrome all the time? And I think it's a bit of both. And I imagine that if you're a salesperson and your job is to make calls and make money and send quotes and send contracts, and you're doing things like dialing the phone using the telephone interface, then maybe you do want a native app and not to have to keep track of where that Chrome tab is. So that happened a while ago and I thought was interesting, cool. But the thing they dropped this week that I was not expecting, and maybe just one easy incremental step for them, is that they made them white label. So if you are like an agency creating HighLevel accounts for the insurance industry, or creating HighLevel accounts for yoga practitioners, or creating HighLevel snapshots for whatever, fill in the blank, authors and speakers, and instead of marketing it as HighLevel, you're marketing it as insurance agent HQ dot whatever your personal brand name is. They've made it that you can actually white label that native desktop app, which I think is cool. And it was
cool.
Their big announcement of this week that I wasn't expecting, but does seem to be like one more layer into that commitment of being, a partnership ecosystem, right? That should, I keep picking on insurance agent or realtor or whatever, but should an insurance agent have a relationship directly with HighLevel? Maybe not. But if they have a relationship with an agency that has expertise in insurance work and can create, a custom contact view and can create a native app in the dock, it seems like a real commitment to that idea of the software company will give you the shed full of tools, and then it's the intermediaries in the industry that get to chisel that block away to the more formed sculpture of how people ought to use it. So I wasn't expecting it, but the idea of a native app stuck out in my mind as a cool signal about that part of the business model.
Well, I think and I've noticed this in Keap, Thryv, HighLevel. I've noticed this in a multitude of CRM communities where people, a feature will be launched. Like in this example, it would be white labeled SaaS. I'm doing the SaaS version of HighLevel. Cool. But then people are like, I just invested in this SaaS, but I can't white label this, and this too. And so there's a lot of like what the developers and the company doesn't consider to be half-baked, but until they give it to people, they're like, wait, why would I do this if I can't have this? Like there's just a lot of that happens, and they don't notice that in even in alpha or beta testing or labs or what have you, because those things are more identifiable, like, oh, the button's over here. That's a really great situation for like beta testing, or this doesn't work properly. But when it comes to like, hey, we're white labeling, that's more like you have to use it in real life and be a white label user or be a white label owner, and then to not have other features white labeled that could just potentially make you look bad, or you not being able to use the full suite can be really detrimental. So I think this is a really great signal, not just because of all the reasons you listed, but also there's nothing better than technology is always going to change. It's always going to break. It's always going to grow. It's always going to all the things. But when the companies listen, that's what matters.
Absolutely.
That's what matters.
Absolutely. Like we said, it was a big news week in the world of automation. We didn't even get to talk about how much stuff happened in the Monkeypod Grove this week. But let's end this Friday update and save some of that Monkeypod teaser for Monday. All right.
Yeah.
See you, Jade.
Bye.